Have you ever known someone, maybe even someone respected, whose behavior just, well, it goes completely off the rails?
Yeah, it happens. And it makes you scratch your head like, how did they get there? And what do you even do?
Exactly. And that's kind of the puzzle we're digging into today.
We're doing a deep dive into this really fascinating ancient Buddhist story about a figure named Channatthera, often just called Channa.
Right, Channa. And we've got some great source material here, mainly from early Buddhist texts, specifically the commentary on the Dhammapada.
And these texts, they offer such a window into how these early communities actually functioned, how they dealt with, well, difficult people.
Totally. And there's this specific verse in there we'll get to. It's quite pointed. But the whole story, it feels surprisingly relevant, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the story is ancient, thousands of years old, but the themes, dealing with tricky individuals, the importance of good guidance, mentorship.
And that surprising potential for change, even when someone seems really stuck in their ways. These are timeless questions, really.
So let's set the scene. This is happening while the Buddha is residing at Jetapana Monastery.
Okay.
And the central figure causing the trouble is this monk, Channa.
Now, what's interesting, as you mentioned, is Channa's background, right? His connection to the Buddha.
Exactly. It's not just any monk. Channa has history. The texts really emphasize this. He was the attendant, the charioteer.
The one who actually left with Siddhartha Gautama, the young master, when he renounced his palace life.
That's the one, the great renunciation. They shared that huge, life-altering moment.
Wow. So you'd think there'd be a deep respect, a special bond.
You would think. But it seems that shared past almost. Well, it bred a kind of entitlement, maybe? Because later, after the Buddha's enlightenment, when Sariputta and Moggallana had become the chief disciples, Channa's behavior towards them was, frankly, pretty awful.
How so? What was he doing?
Well, the texts say he'd openly disrespect them. He'd call them out, undermine their status.
Really? Like publicly?
Seems like it. He'd apparently say things along the lines of, oh, these guys call themselves chief disciples now. Sariputta, Moggallana.
Ouch.
Yeah, and he'd add something like, I was there when our young master left. I didn't see them around back then being so important.
Good grief. That's incredibly arrogant. And disruptive, you have to imagine.
Massively disruptive. It's a direct challenge to the Buddha's appointed leaders, based purely on his own past association.
So this couldn't have gone unnoticed. Did the Buddha step in?
Oh, yes. The Buddha heard about it, naturally. And he summoned Channa, tried to counsel him.
Just once?
No, that's the thing. The sources say 3 times. 3 separate occasions the Buddha called him in, advised him.
3 times. And Channa.
He just kept doing it.
Yeah.
Despite the direct counsel from the Buddha himself, he continued the disrespectful behavior towards Sariputta and Moggallana.
That's stubbornness on a whole other level. Why do you think he was so resistant? Even to the Buddha?
It's hard to say for sure, but maybe that long history worked against him. Perhaps he saw the Buddha still as the young master he served and couldn't fully grasp the shift, couldn't accept the authority of others who rose later.
That makes a certain psychological sense, I suppose. Still quite something.
It really is. And this leads to a really key teaching moment, since direct private counsel didn't work.
The Buddha takes a different approach.
Yes. He addresses Channa, likely in a more formal setting, maybe with others present. And he directly tackles Channa's view of the chief disciples.
Okay.
He tells Channa that Sariputta and Moggallana are actually kalyamita, good friends, beneficial friends for him.
Kalyamita.
Good friends. And also Uttamapurisa, excellent individuals, superior people.
Uttamapura, so the opposite of how Channa was seeing them.
Precisely. And then the Buddha recites that verse we mentioned earlier. It goes, Navaje papakemite, navaje purisadame, bajita mite kayad, bajita purisuttameti.
Right. Let's break that down a bit. What's the meaning there?
Okay, so the first part, nabaje papakemite, nabaje purisadame.
That means?
It means essentially, do not associate with bad friends, papamita, or with inferior persons, purisadama.
And the sources define those terms.
They do. Papamita, bad friends, are those devoted to unwholesome things, like misconduct. Purisadama, inferior persons, are those who might encourage bad actions, like theft or other harmful things. Avoid them.
Okay, avoid the bad influences. Makes sense.
And then the second part, Pajathamita kala, pajasta purisuttameti.
Which would be the opposite.
Exactly. Associate with good friends, kalyatamita, and associate with virtuous persons, sapurisa or uttamapurisa here.
Yeah.
Seek out the good influences.
So the Buddha is explicitly telling Channa These guys you're dissing, they're the good friends, the excellent people you should be associating with.
Precisely. It's a direct reframing of the situation and a clear instruction on wise association.
And did this finally get through to Channa? I mean, the texts say this teaching had a big impact on others who heard it, right? Many attained stages of enlightenment.
That's the remarkable and perhaps frustrating part of the story. Many listeners did benefit greatly, reaching states like Sotapati, stream entry.
But Channa?
No. According to the account, even after this profound teaching, delivered directly by the Buddha, pinpointing his exact issue, Channa persisted.
Wow. He kept up the abusive language.
He did. It really drives home how deeply ingrained habits and attitudes can be, doesn't it? Even resistant to the highest wisdom.
It absolutely does.
Okay.
So, what then? Did the Buddha just give up?
Not exactly give up, but he foresaw that a different approach would be needed after he was gone. This leads us to a very serious development as the Buddha's own passing, his parinibbana, approached.
Okay, what happened?
Knowing Channa was still problematic, the Buddha made a specific pronouncement to the other monks.
Which was?
He said essentially, "Monks, while I'm here, you won't be able to effectively train Channa, but after my passing, you will be able to."
That's quite a statement. It acknowledges the difficulty, but also offers a path forward.
Right. It suggests the dynamic would change once the Buddha, the person, Channa, had this unique, long-standing, and perhaps complicated relationship with, was no longer physically present.
So did he leave instructions? How are they supposed to train Channa after he was gone?
Yes. Venerable Ananda, the Buddha's cousin and close attendant, specifically asked him that. "Lord, how should we treat the monk Channa after the Blessed One has passed away?"
And the Buddha's answer?
The instruction was to impose the Brahma-don't on Channa.
Brahmadon, the Brahma punishment. What exactly did that mean? It sounds severe.
It sounds severe, and in a way it was, but maybe not how we'd first think. The key point from the sources is that it wasn't physical punishment.
No. So what was it?
It was a form of, social sanction. Ostracism, essentially. The monks were instructed to completely shun him.
Shun him. Like literally nobody talks to him.
Pretty much. No association, no speaking to him, no instructing him. Complete social isolation within the monastic community.
Whoa. In a close-knit community like that.
Yeah.
That's intense. It's a powerful lesson, isn't it? About how much we rely on social connection.
Absolutely. And its removal can be a surprisingly potent motivator for change.
So after the Buddha passed away, did Ananda carry this out?
He did. Venerable Ananda informed Channa that the Sangha, the community, was imposing the Brahmadan as instructed by the Buddha.
And Channa's reaction, how did he take this news?
It hit him incredibly hard. The texts describe him being overcome with grief, with intense mental distress.
I can only imagine.
He apparently fainted 3 times.
3 times?
Yes, and pleaded with Ananda, "Do not destroy me, please don't destroy me." He clearly perceived this complete social isolation as a kind of destruction.
It shows how fundamental that belonging is.
Yeah.
So what happened next? Did it work?
And this is where the story takes that really unexpected, amazing turn.
Yeah.
Faced with this total exclusion, the shock of it, the reality of his situation, Channa changed.
You did.
He started fulfilling his duties properly. He got serious about his practice, about being a monk in the right way. Samavata parenta, the texts say. He humbled himself.
So the isolation, the consequence, it actually broke through his pride or his resistance.
It seems so. And here's the truly stunning part. Not long after this, Channa didn't just become a compliant monk.
What?
He attained arhatship.
No way. Full enlightenment.
Full enlightenment, the highest goal, along with the 4 analytical knowledges, the Paisambhita. This monk who was so difficult, so resistant.
Ends up achieving the ultimate spiritual attainment. That is genuinely surprising.
It really is. It completely flips the script on what you might expect.
So let's try and unpack the takeaways here. What does this whole deep dive tell us?
Well, first off, it's a stark reminder that seniority or past relationships, like Channa's with the Buddha, don't give anyone a free pass for bad behavior. Respect has to be maintained.
All right. That seems crucial for any group, ancient monastery or modern workplace, and the idea of friendship, too.
The Buddha's definition of kalyamita, good friends, they're the ones who guide you towards the good, the wholesome, not just the ones you have history with or who tell you what you want to hear.
And it shows a different side of the Buddha's compassion, maybe. That finding a way to help someone transform, even if the method seems harsh initially, like the Brahmadancha,
Yeah.
the ultimate goal was still Channa's welfare.
Absolutely. The intervention, though severe, was ultimately aimed at liberation, not just punishment. And it worked, surprisingly enough.
Which leads to that final point, the power of consequences, yes, but also the incredible, sometimes unpredictable potential for change in people, even when they seem completely stuck.
Exactly. You just never know what might finally click for someone.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over.
Yeah, what does this ancient story make you think about that balance? The balance between compassion and accountability in whatever communities you're part of, or even just in dealing with difficult situations in your own life.
And maybe, does real, deep change always need something dramatic like the Brahma Dome Way? Or can it happen in quieter ways too? Something to consider.